Ah, the French champagne.
Champagne!
The schlocky movie from this week may be the schlockiest film we've ever seen on this podcast.
I'm Mr. Pink.
Sis Blue.
So Miranda hasn't seen Reservoir Dogs.
Those men's children are all identical clones of Adolf Hitler.
Once they were men, now they are land crabs.
Amanda Bynes is a national treasure.
There's like a bunch of other shit that happens in Driven.
Is there?
Secret Nazis.
Yeah.
Secret Nazis.
Hey, Daddy lost his eagle.
I hope
So-
no one from my family listens to this podcast.
The Citizen Kane of the week is...
Hey, and welcome. Welcome to our continuing Podlet series, where we take facets of the film world and we fucking just have a discussion about it. They're shorter, they're more bite-sized, they're more digestible in that way. You don't need to know anything to listen to them. It's just kind of...
we don't
us-
know anything, and we do them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But we are pretending that at least having now watched like 150 movies for
Yeah.
this podcast,
Yeah, about that.
plus
A lot of movies.
a lot of movies,
Holy shit.
and like combined with a lot of discussion and having various backgrounds ourselves in terms of being actors, writers, working in production, and just generally, we are amateur film reviewers, so we're not claiming to be pros, but we got some opinions at the very least, and we are entitled to them.
Yeah.
So I'm Jack. Over there is
Big Papa Sean.
Big Pappy Shan, but so not over there, but over there is
Widow baby Dan.
Hush, little baby.
all right.
There he goes. Okay, he's off now. We can. The adults can
Right,
talk.
now that whittled down. I'm not going to keep this going, actually.
Okay.
So this Podlet for this episode, we wanted to discuss what is becoming a trend in the film world in a way that didn't really exist until I feel like this millennium. Really?
We're doing the franchise thing?
Yeah. The question is to franchise or not to franchise. Essentially just talking about how movies everything wants to be a franchise now. Everything wants to be an extended universe. And what's the deal with that? Is
Well,
what's
what
good, what's
perspective
bad?
are we asking this question from? Because if I'm the CEO of the Walt Disney Corporation, the answer is undoubtedly franchise.
We're watching it we are commenting on it as the consumer, as the people who enjoy
Right.
cinema and would like to watch good cinema. How does that impact our experience?
We theoretically need like pros and cons
Yeah.
for each side.
Sure.
I'm also trying to think about what franchises existed pre-turn of the millennium.
James Bond,
James Bond, Batman,
True.
Star Wars,
Superman.
Star Trek.
Ooh.
So here's a
Yeah.
yeah, I suppose. Yeah, that's totally right. Yep, sci-fi is kind of one of the early trailblazers.
Yep.
Star blazers. No, for that'd be a cool. Anyway, for franchises, and I think there's okay. This is gonna sound really nitty gritty.
Halloween.
Horror
yeah.
franchises.
Horror,
Jason.
sci-fi.
It's been like genre. I guess even now it's still genre specific.
Now
The
it's
comedy-
action too.
now
comedy
it's
too.
but,
superhero.
but James Bond has also always
James
been
Bond,
action. Like
action.
Yeah, so there've
those
been
things
many.
exist.
And like the National Lampoon's movies, is a franchise,
Yeah.
through the last quarter of the 20th century.
Yeah.
But it definitely. I mean, I do see the point in that those things are famous because franchises have not been as prevalent as opposed to now, where it does seem like everything needs to be a franchise. Like
Yeah.
they just like The Rock is now pushing for Red Notice to be a franchise and build out a whole cinematic universe.
What is
Red
that?
Notice is the movie that he did with Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot
On Netflix.
on Netflix.
Ew.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is really bad.
Yeah.
I've watched it twice, and it is I think maybe the only movie where I've ever seen The Rock kiss a woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Doesn't he in Skyscraper?
I don't
don't
actually
think
know
so.
if like he is strategically sexless in his movies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
but in this one of the big twists, so he spends the whole movie in cahoots with Ryan Reynolds to steal this ancient artifact.
Yeah.
And they are chasing Gal Gadot's character. And the big twist is that The Rock, is actually in cahoots with Gal Gadot because they are, I guess, a couple of some
It
kind,
was a
married
classic
or something.
double cross.
Classic double cross.
Oh boy.
What a
yeah.
twist.
What a twist. So, anyways, movie real bad, performed very well on Netflix, as all of his movies do. And now he's pushing to build out an entire cinematic universe around this.
He wants to build. I mean, okay, so there's the Oceans. Like the Oceans movies aren't really a franchise, but he wants to franchise Red Notice into a multiple heist movie franchise, or does he want multiple movies within the universe constructed in the Red Notice movie?
Green Notice.
Green Notice, Blue
Notice.
No, I think it's a series of heist movies around the three central characters.
Okay,
So-
okay,
Or
I
focused
hate it.
on,
I
yes.
hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
So hold on, let me jump back for a second because I think there's this is a pointless differentiation, but I think it's worth mentioning. I think there's a difference to like sequels being
Yeah.
made and a franchise, and this is going to sound nitty gritty. So I would say, for example, the first 3 Lord of the Rings movies was not a franchise.
No.
It was a trilogy. And it was like meant to be taken in as a concise, like that was very specific, right?
Right.
And it wasn't until The Hobbit started and now we have the new thing on Amazon that they are extending into being a franchise.
Right.
Even Star Wars, even though I know it has like, after it came out in the 70s and 80s, it had like, there were like comic books and other book books.
Merchandise out the
Merchandise.
wazoo.
Like
Yeah.
it was...
But it was still an independent thing owned by George Lucas, who very, very selectively was only allowing long form content to come out that he okayed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so like as much as there was extended merchandising, sure, I think it didn't start to really become a franchise until it had that second coming.
Until the mouse got a hold of it.
Yeah, I would say even with the prequels and which around the same time began the beginnings
I
of
guess
like
the
animated
Clone Wars,
shows and
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
That's fair.
That's when it was like, okay, we're actually gonna buckle down and
Milk this thing.
and milk it and
Let's
make it a
milk
franchise.
this cow.
Right?
And then Disney bought the
Do you know what I
farm
mean?
for
It's
$5 billion.
nitty-gritty.
I know what you mean, but I think there's, to get even more specific, a distinction between what Lord of the Rings was doing and what Star Wars was doing. 'Cause
They are very different.
They are very different,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think that as soon as you incorporate merch into the equation, you're verging into franchise territory.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
So-
think George Lucas always meant to be a franchise. To
Yeah.
be clear.
Yeah.
It just didn't fully happen until like the second wave of its media content.
It definitely got far larger, but I think as soon as the scope of your movie extends beyond the movie, you're in franchise world now.
And they were making other Star Wars stuff back then, like the Christmas
holiday special
the
and-
holiday
yeah.
special,
Yeah.
So I guess it always wanted to be that. I'm just saying like where it really kicked into gear as being, and especially now. Now it's like
Shrek is, even though,
Shrek.
I mean, no, it's full on franchise now with like the second Puss in Boots movie that's out.
yeah,
Right.
And all the Shrek the Halls specials.
Right.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot.
yeah, it's an attempt at, okay.
So then is the difference between a series of sequels, like a sequel is is a sequel only the second one, or is this a sequel is any?
Anything, yeah.
Yeah. So is the difference between a series of sequels and a franchise an extension of the universe when you start to branch out?
It kind of feels like it. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like a sequel continues the story that we know, or at least like follows the same characters on a secondary and third adventure and so on.
right.
And then I think once you start to get past like the clear boundaries of what that original story was, like you could argue like Die Hard went from being sequels to a franchise eventually because
Fast
it
and the
left.
Furious.
You know what I mean? Fast
Yeah.
and Furious.
It's
exactly.
kind of when you're no longer banking on the like the movie's actors and writing to propel your film, and you're more banking on the sellability of the brand to make your movie work.
That feels like a good...
Like Star Wars is now one of the most blatant examples where they have a whole host of shows and movies that are like, remember that one guy from that one movie? We're going to make multiple series about him.
He gets 12 hours of your time now.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like total offshoots. You know what I mean? And I think the same thing happened with Lord of the Rings. Like, that seems very emblematic.
Although Lord of the Rings, I would maybe argue that it didn't... Like, I don't even know if The Hobbit would be considered the kind of branching off point into franchise, because I feel like it's still based on source material. We're still just kind of retelling a story that already exists.
Yeah.
You know,
but how they did it was through the filter of the franchise model, is what I would argue.
If it had been one movie?
Oh, right, because it's all one very small book, right?
It's like an eighth or like a quarter the length of the first Lord of the Rings novel.
And they exploded it into a
three films.
Trilogy, right?
Yeah,
okay,
which
that's
I
fair.
think is like, to me, one of the big counter arguments against this franchise thing is partly just looking at the Lord of the Rings trilogies and how one of it was like this like clearly produced labor of love. Those movies are beloved by many, and it's because they had this, like, there wasn't this and then we'll make another one and another one.
Right.
It was just like we made them all at once. And I think why I said to Sean, like, before the podcast, to make a note of this so I don't forget, is like, and it went so well. I think it was one of those things that it restarted this idea of like making these extended recurring theater experiences that come back and see more energy, almost like the TV experience in cinema. And then how it was applied to the Hobbit series is just showing how horrible it can be. Those movies are absolute shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only seen the first one.
I couldn't tell you anything that happens in any. I haven't seen the third one yet. I don't think I have.
Like, they're god awful.
Yeah.
Like, they're just terrible. So, and I find it really hard now. Like, okay, so another thing we need to talk about in terms of this is obviously the MCU.
Yeah.
Right? And then also, like, if we wanted to, the weird dark mirror of it, of the DCEU.
Sure.
Of them
and then
trying to play
the
ball.
Monsterverse too.
The Monsterverse, very successful Monsterverse.
What is the Monsterverse?
Like King Kong and Godzilla and stuff.
Right.
Oh, there's that one, but I meant the dark, or is the Darkverse? The Darkiverse is what I.
The Mummy and what was supposed to be
Mummy
Jekyll and Hyde
and Jekyll and
that never happened.
They're supposed to be all the classic.
Those are joint movies.
They're supposed to be part of the same monster universe. And they were gonna make They were gonna make a Wolfman and
Well, they did make a Wolfman.
Okay, so
with Benicio del Toro.
Then that was definitely supposed to be part of a larger universe.
When? Recently?
I have no idea.
Like maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It had Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins.
We're talking about like The Mummy with
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise
was supposed to be the beginning of a franchise.
And and Russell Crowe
he's supposed to be Jekyll.
Yeah, that's right.
He's in the movie as Jekyll.
In The Mummy?
In The Mummy, yeah.
Oh,
he's supposed to be Jekyll.
And they were going to launch a whole the monster in the lagoon or whatever. They were going to make one. So they were going to resuscitate all of these old IPs, the old Warner Bros. Monster IPs that they needed to re-up to keep their copyright. So they're going to make a universe out of them, and it did not work.
And here's like, and this is a particularly sinister thing, and it's like where I think some of those like successful sequels, like Lord of the Rings, like these confined 3-part stories. The trilogy used to be a thing.
Yeah.
It used to be like you would make a trilogy and most of them be like, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
And then, but it still gave people this idea of like multiple movies, more money. And then you have Marvel, obviously, is the current one that has really broken our system because it went so well. It's gone so well. Yeah. Even though the quality of content is way
plummeting.
Yeah. And just becoming more and more like vapid.
You just have to give the 9 rings a chance, man, or whatever the fuck that the
10 rings.
10 rings of Amun Ra, or
yeah. Okay, but and no.
Okay.
But so they did so well that not everyone wants it, and then it leads to probably the worst outcome against franchising, which is that people make one movie like The Mummy with the plan for it to be a franchise,
Right, yeah.
which to me seems to be a destined to fail scenario. You can't make one movie with the plan of it spawning 10 more movies
Because you don't know what's marketable yet.
No.
Yeah.
And you're also not. Your goal isn't to make that movie one good movie, which is what Marvel started doing, I think.
Yeah.
As much as they did their setup stuff,
No, I think that Marvel all like they
not good, but
they
fun.
started with stuff. No, Marvel started with Iron Man. Like Marvel
Yeah,
Studios,
the new idea.
began
Yeah.
with Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the plan was always to do like they always had the phase model.
That
I
was
think-
definitely the hope when Marvel was independent, and it was just but they couldn't have done that if Iron Man wasn't successful. If all the movies they made before the Disney purchase, if none of them had like been individually good movies, then the franchise possibility wouldn't have been there. So I think they like purposely were trying to make good movies.
for sure.
Yeah.
for sure.
because
Yeah.
they had that added risk of not being one of the major producers at that time
Yeah.
because they were like branching off and emerging. I think they had a bit of extra fire to do what we're talking about. Well, obviously still having the goal. Like they knew
Yeah.
that if it went well, they were going to continue to cash in on this thing forever. Like they knew.
I'm going through the like laundry list of franchises we've mentioned so far, and I'm realizing that majority of the ones that have withstood the test of time are all based, not all, majority of, are based on pre-existing IP.
Yeah.
Source material
Yeah.
that is not
Something we know that is marketable and can be turned into something else.
usually a book or comic book series or something with a built-in fan base. Like James Bond is based on a series of novels, is
Yep.
he not?
Yeah.
Yep. But now it's just like such
it's
a
its own
famous
thing
it's
now,
just
yeah.
beyond that.
For sure. But I think that this kind of this drive to franchise everything comes from, you know, the classic Hollywood problem of being completely out of fresh ideas.
Yeah.
But it's also going to spell their downfall because no one has the originality to come up with a sustainable story that can, you know, be built out into 10 movies, 12 movies, whatever it is. Like Marvel wouldn't be what Marvel is if it didn't have the built-in fan base of
course.
comics, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Well, it's like a mix, I think, because there are new ideas out there, right? And
sure.
I think part of it, it's not just that like they're like, oh, what do we make? I guess we'll make what's made. Like that's totally a part of it, but I think it's also the nature of like the capitalistic producer side of it, where are the real money signs? They're looking at them as investments. They don't care if it's a good quality movie
No.
that is art. They're like, make the thing that spawns more things, and if it spawns more things, I get a better kickback on my investment, and yada yada. Like they're it's just that. You know what I mean? It's just continued money.
Okay, so riddle me this. We were talking about The Rock. I would argue that we've entered into the phase where The Rock is himself a franchise. No matter where he goes, he is part of a larger, like, this is my image. I am the marketability of this film. You recognize me. Let's make millions of dollars.
He has openly, I think on multiple occasions, referred to himself as franchise Viagra for that exact reason.
Yep.
What?
Yeah, because it's true.
Sorry,
He-
DC.
Well, that's
As in
what's so
he
funny.
Is Viagra to a franchise?
To a
Yeah.
franchise, you infuse him
as he
into
proved
that.
with Black Adam.
Well, that's. I mean, I think that is such a spectacular failure, because he has kind of put himself in this pedestal of I can rescue and build up any franchise I infuse myself into.
Yeah.
And clearly he can't. But historically he's been able to. I mean, Fast and Furious
Fast and Furious. Franchise.
franchise.
Don't know if he saved it. I think it was already kind of like doing well, and
But
then he arrived.
but I think that he definitely infused some new blood into it that brought it into a different direction.
Sure.
It definitely like helped innovate the franchise.
Yep.
His introduction into G.I. Joe maybe didn't go as well as he would have
Besides,
hoped.
in the
G.I. Joe.
the Rise of Cobra, like
Yeah.
way back.
Where he plays essentially the same character he played in the first couple of Fast and Furious movies.
Oh, I haven't
Now
seen
he's
those.
a superhero in those films. Like
Right.
now he is straight up punching down concrete walls.
Cool.
It is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. I'm sorry, but I interrupted you.
I was just saying, can people be franchises?
I don't know.
Which
Like,
I would
that's like Tom Cruise, similar kind of vibe.
yeah,
right?
yeah. Which I would say harkens is if that is categorically a franchise, then that existed in the old studio system in the 30s, 40s, 50s Hollywood, where like
Yeah, they were the.
you went to a Rita Hayworth film because you knew what a Rita Hayworth film was going to be.
Yeah,
I think that's
and
more.
they'd be like Hayworth Productions.
Yeah,
be like-
fair.
I think that's more a case of a person being a brand than
Right.
a franchise.
Yeah.
And being
brand,
utilized
yeah.
by a corporation.
Just like making them
exactly.
doing a good job of turning themselves into a product.
Right.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is exceptional at.
Yep,
He's
that's why he's still around,
He's the
for
face
sure.
of
He
how
sure
many
is a product.
franchises?
I don't know. Too many.
Mission Impossible.
Mission
The
Impossible.
whole church.
I can't wait
Top
for
Gun.
Top Gun, the extended universe to come out.
Yeah, there's another one that he has too outside of Mission Impossible. What's the other? He's another franchise, isn't he?
Cocktail.
Oh, there was Jack Ryan.
He was
Fremen.
Jack
Oh,
Ryan.
he was Jack Ryan. Yeah.
Generic man, action movie.
Right.
Yeah, and I think like there's something different about like James Bond, for example, because James Bond has the benefit of being around for a long time.
Right.
That like everyone kind of I think knows that it's gonna be a ride of ups and downs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If
There's
like
going
a
to be
bad
some
James
stinky
Bond,
movies because
Yeah.
historically there's been some stinky movies.
Yeah.
But every once in a while you're going to get a really good James Bond film.
yeah, and like generally everyone knows what like it'll be roughly like this.
Yeah.
You know, good practical stunts.
Yep.
You know, car chases, yada yada, sexy this,
Sexy ladies,
tuxedo,
sexy
etc.
James Bond.
You know,
Well, I guess in
cool
that
gunshot.
way, that is a case for franchises in general. If it is done well, is that you're getting what you pay for. You know what what to expect, and it is a predictable and usually enjoyable experience.
Yep.
For the most part.
That's how I felt about Phase 1 to 3 of Marvel.
Yeah.
I
You knew
thought
what you were
that
getting
was-
into.
I think it's amazing what they did.
Yeah.
Like, to be clear, I think it's incredible. It felt so new to whatever existed in cinema. It was a totally novel experience that you had this interwoven web of movies in this way, and it culminated in a surprisingly
Yeah. Well done.
concise, well
Very
done.
rare to have something so huge in scope actually land the plane. you
Yeah.
know?
It's like looking at Lord of the Rings and then the pre-plan of it and being like, we're going to film all these movies at once because it's going to start like this and end in like this, and so we have to build into those things.
Right.
And they were like, we're going to do that with 22 movies?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
Over
And,
like
they-
17 years or something.
Yeah.
and because it had that like what felt like truly, I think a degree of it was a labor of love. I think these people were passionate about achieving this goal. They stuck the landing, incredibly well.
Of course.
Yeah.
But
And then it was done.
It
Yeah,
will.
they
Well, that's the thing.
You don't stick the landing on your gymnastics routine and then
then
keep
jump
doing
again.
cartwheels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
get
Because
off the
then
mats.
it does reveal because I was willing through 3 phases of Marvel to participate and pay $20 to go get the water spat in my face
Yeah.
by Chris Pine, or no, he's not even in it.
No.
He's the one Chris that isn't in
Yeah,
the Marvel
Chris Evans.
universe.
He's,
Chris Evans.
he's in DC, though.
Yeah, he is in
Yeah.
DC.
There's
I'll-
some
yeah.
and there's some stinkier movies.
Yeah, but I would pay because I knew that there was an end line, and I was like, I'll
Yeah.
participate in the commercialism of this because you are A, giving me content that I am enjoying, and B, there is an end line.
Yeah.
And as soon as they crossed that end line and tried to go for the jump again, it's all about it. It's just nakedly, I need more billions of dollars. It's not we care about this content. It's not we care about the fan base. They only at that point only care about how much more money they can wring out of this thing.
And because it wasn't like they moved forward in this thoughtful way where
No.
it was like a pause and then and introducing a new character, and then it was like these extended shows with nothing really going, like it was just like doubling down on more content is better mentality.
Yeah, which is also evident in the 7, 8, 9 Star Warses, which clearly are movies, made to make money.
Yep.
Disney paid $4 billion and needed to recoup their $4 billion. So they said, movie in 2015, movie in 2016, movie in 2017, movie in 2018, movie in 2019, finish the saga, series, and then just like launch these things at you, and you're like, you just want my money, fuck off.
Did they do 5 movies? I guess with
Rogue One and Solo.
Rogue One and Solo.
Solo, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, the thing is, so as much as I think there are good things about it, I think I think right now, I think there's a place for this. Like, in the same way that what Marvel did, I think is great. I think the continuing James Bond world, like, I kind of look forward to there being a new James Bond.
Yeah, I think I was trying to see what makes James Bond different, because James Bond has some absolutely god awful films within the whole franchise, and I think what's different is that the main character is so tied in with a national identity that it is treated with a bit more care when they come around to making the movies,
Right.
because they know like an entire nation is going to be pissed off if you portray this person in a certain way. Like an entire nation of people are going to be mad.
I think that there's something to
I
that.
think that's true. There's also just like the legacy of James Bond that I think like there's always a certain care taken with that. Like even as evident by the fact that you only get one every like 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe even more than that. Like they're not super frequent. Every single one.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
And there's not like a James Bond show coming out on Amazon.
No, don't give them any ideas.
Sorry, shut up.
Yeah.
And there never will.
I am actually amazed.
The
that
Zany
that
Adventures
doesn't
of Q.
exist.
Yeah.
And I think that's because I think there is probably something tracing back to like who owns the rights and stuff like that.
The Broccolis.
Probably,
Yeah.
There's someone somewhere being like, "Hey, do we want to license this into a show?" And they're like, "No."
I think
There
that is
must
the
be
case. I think
someone
the
holding
daughter,
it and stopping it.
the daughter of the Broccoli who wrote all the novels and was like the overseer. I think she has final yes or no on like just what
Damn.
media is given the green light.
To be honest, that's probably the only reason.
Yeah.
That's the only reason there's any reverence or whatever. It's just because there's one person
Yeah, it
who
was
actually
like,
has
no.
the reins on it.
But as soon as she dies and her estate is bought up by fucking Paramount or whoever,
Disney or-
yeah, you think Disney's gonna buy the James Bond series?
Yes.
If it makes them $1 billion, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you saying the broccoli?
The Broccolis,
The broccolis.
the Albert Broccoli, I think, is the
Oh, so the last name is broccoli.
Broccoli, yeah.
Got it.
Hello, I'm Albert Broccoli. I wrote the James Bond.
I was a super secret English spy.
And they never knew I was from England.
We're all doing Borat.
But I think it's like currently bad. It is unfortunately hooking in a lot of people to consuming media in a new way, which I don't know. I think it only further pushes out movies that stand out as being interesting individual films. Just speaking about films, not even like TV and stuff like that.
Right.
And like the movies that I have enjoyed the most in the last 10 years are standalone films
Yeah.
that were made to be a standalone film, and there's never even a thought of a sequel, let alone a franchise.
Yeah.
Like those, there is something about doing that seems to produce better films,
Oh yeah,
like better art.
yep. I mean, they are from all.
There's a new Willow show.
I know that is purely a money making
Willow
venture.
show.
The moment Ryan Johnson gives up the like Knives Out series, which I hope he makes 20 more of these
That's fun.
Knives Out films. Daniel Craig is a riot, but they like the sequel lands because it is treated with care by the original creator of it,
Yeah.
who has a vision for all of these characters and for what he wants the series to represent. But as soon as he's gone, they'll just go do a funny Southern accent, Daniel.
Yeah, it'll turn into Ocean's 11 type stuff.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters, like it's just
Ghost, but they've been trying hard to franchise that, eh?
Transformers and stuff.
Yeah, that's kids' toys.
Transformers.
Yeah, kid stuff is kind of different, I guess.
Although, but it started as kids' toys, but the attempt has been to market it to
to those
adult.
kids who are now adults.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because
And-
we as a generation haven't been able to give anything up.
Well, and it might work with the introduction of Beast Wars in the new installment. I might give them my money.
Dan's in.
We
I
made
might
a fucking
be.
Power Rangers movie, and it was bad.
Yeah, that was really bad. That was really.
Because we can't give anything up.
And we already had a good Power Rangers movie. It was already done.
yeah.
Ivan Ooze is the ultimate movie villain. It was already done. You nailed it.
And so, because I feel like we need to wrap this up.
Fucking Hasbro.
And like, so what I would say is like, again, if you're thinking of writing a movie and you want to get into film, like, I don't even mind if it's derivative.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
I
Like,
do.
All art
I
is
don't
derivative.
Even, I don't even, because it's all derivatives. So like, if you really love the fucking Lord of the Rings series,
Write your fantasy adventure.
you just change some names around, come up with
Look
some
what George R. R.
original
Martin
concept.
did.
Yeah.
He just took real history and mixed it with Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Boom.
Just like, it's fine. Just go for it. And maybe it end up being good if you really want to make it good.
Yeah. Don't do what George R. R. Martin did, though, and completely, like, give up on the show
On the show and his books.
and his books.
Because,
Has
sorry,
he just stopped writing?
He's writing, like, 9 different TV shows right now.
Oh,
yeah,
is he
sorry,
really?
sorry, fans of those books. You're never gonna get the end of those.
Yo, you gotta go where the money is, man.
He's gonna die.
yeah.
But that, I mean, that really is it. I think that you're making a very good point in that it is like I don't mind the idea of a franchise. I actually don't even mind if the plan is to write one movie with the plan of it being the first of 12 movies, but it has to be handled with care.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as it is obvious that it is just a money-making venture, fuck off. So this idea of like to franchise or not to franchise is hard because there are some franchises that work really well, but at the same time, you know, it's being not exploited, but like Hollywood does with everything, it's being fucking way overdone.
Drain it dry.
Drain it dry,
Throw it in the trash heap.
partially because Hollywood as like a culture
Is a drain it dry culture.
is a drain it dry
Yeah.
culture that has actually run out of ideas.
I
But I
think
don't
that's
know
a different
about
Podlet.
Yeah. Are there any ideas left?
Yeah.
Sure, but I think it definitely relates to this one.
Sure.
Well, with how
It's
with,
easier.
well, just in terms of how much content they want to be making. It's hard. How like
Well, because they have to keep making content to make
Yeah.
money.
yeah.
Right.
So they're only
obviously,
gonna fund projects they know will make money because
Exactly.
they want to earn that back, and they have marketed IP that they can already rely on. So they're not going to take a chance on.
on a new thing
on a
that
new
is
thing.
experimental.
That's the quickie breakdown, 100%. So, like, my opinion, if I were to honestly answer, I'd say the answer is no. Like, don't franchise. Like, to be honest with you, like, if I were to be pushed one way or the other, not that we have to answer that question,
No.
but like I think it's cool what Marvel did. I think it's had a negative impact on the overall
Sure.
kind of cinematic.
Okay, I know you're trying to wrap this up, but to say no, don't franchise, and to use Marvel as the example of why it's a bad idea, are you saying that we would be better off, that like Marvel shouldn't have existed? Like Marvel is, I think there's a very good argument to be made
I
that
think the snap should have been permanent.
no, I mean I see what you did there, but the sequel to that movie was fucking incredible.
Yeah.
But like, I guess, sorry, I know you're like mid thought, but what I'm trying to say is, if it ended there,
Yeah.
it like, it becomes this like broad plan, but it doesn't have this like stinky mark of the like continued IP.
For sure.
engine.
Yeah. I agree with you. The Marvel shouldn't continue to make movies. What I'm saying is what Marvel did was exceptional. And just because other studios are now trying to replicate it and failing
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it shouldn't have happened.
DC. We didn't even touch on DC.
Well, DC is a
As we should.
fucking dumpster fire.
They're the
Although
flagship
James
for that.
Gunn might turn it around. We'll
Or
see.
he might not.
James Gunn, if there's anybody who can save that studio,
Hey.
it's him.
Zack Snyder's Justice League was going to turn that movie around. Hey, you know, Hey, Joss Whedon coming in was going to turn that movie around.
Fucking Justice League.
Hey,
What were we going to compare the Zack Snyder epic to?
To 2001: A Space Odyssey.
To 2001: A Space.
yeah.
It would
movie
just be a
that I
battle of
loved.
long movies.
movie that I love versus a movie that you
Watched.
Yeah, watched. Just a movie.
So anyway, the point is not to say yes or no. It's just about the discussion of just how it's affecting.
I would say if you want to see new, interesting things, go to your local cinema and take part in their classics night. Pay $5 to go see an old movie or see a local festival of movies made locally by people who you might know.
Yeah, check out an independent art house film.
You can probably see 20 of them for the same price you see a Marvel film.
Very possibly.
And 19 of them are going to be maybe better.
Yeah, and not even
Nah.
oh, it was
10 of them.
recommended for an Oscar, but just a movie that is a standalone thing.
Yeah.
Just check them out because it's maybe if enough people, if you you might love that, kind of what's happened with Jordan Peele, that Get Out did so well that there's now kind of Jordan Peele verse that's been building. But they are standalone films.
Right.
But that's because that movie was so popular. It was a new IP of a sort from a new director, playwright, and it was really good, and a lot of people saw it. And so the studios were like, we can invest in you, and we get some more Jordan Peele movies. And we don't have to expect them all to be good, but at least new shit is entering our ecology.
We also, this is my soapbox.
Okay,
Here's my
here we go.
soapbox. Sean's
Soapbox
corner.
to finish.
Also, we don't need to watch all of the series the day they come out. That's not a thing we shouldn't consume our culture that way. Sorry, but culture shouldn't be made to gobble down in one night when you're can't sleep. And so you just put on all 12 episodes of Hawkeye. Sorry, Jeremy Renner, to pick you out of lineup at this point in time.
He just got ran over by
I
a
know, it's
snowplow.
really sad.
He did?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's not good.
He's in the hospital. And
Yeah.
I just saw the headline, so I actually don't know the whole story.
We'll talk
but
after.
Oh, God.
But
Yeah.
if you
Get
really
better,
want to see
Jeremy.
it, take a few weeks, see how people who are ingesting it like fools, it's what they say about it, and then maybe dip your toe in and see if it's still the nice place you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Or just let those things exist in television.
Yeah.
That's what television is for compared to cinema. Otherwise, all our medias are blending together.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So yeah, franchises. It's a weird thing, but it's happening. Let us know what you think by sending an email
Email us.
God.
to citizencanevs@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's citizencanevs@gmail.com.
Make sure the subject line says "Hey Dan."
Yeah. Hey Dan, and can you flag it as important?
Yeah.
When you send it.
XXX.
XXX. You can text Daniel at 825-957.
825. What area code is that?
The 825 area code.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for listening to this little podlet. Although it was probably 50 minutes, but that's okay. Have a good rest of your day. Sign off in your own way. Go, Sean.
Boy, do I love hot dogs!
And then Dan, your catchphrase.
I'm looking at Kleenex right now.
Classic Dan.